Golden Age Hollywood promised us beauty carved in light. But not all its icons were born radiant. Some were rough, unpolished, even called ugly, until the studio machine intervened. With makeup, surgery, lighting tricks, and endless lies, they were remade into gods. Today, we reveal 15 ugly Golden Age actors who were made beautiful artificially. And the truth will shock you. Number 15. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart is remembered as the rugged king of film noir, the star of Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon. His face, carved with cigarette smoke and shadows, became one of cinema's most iconic profiles. But Bogart's beauty was an invention, not a birthright. Off-screen, he was born with crooked, uneven teeth, a lisping diction, and a visage the studios initially found unmarketable. Warner Brothers decided to reforge him artificially. Bogart's teeth were capped and straightened, a transformation that instantly hardened his jawline. Makeup artists learned how to paint shadows across his cheeks, softening his oddly shaped mouth and downturned lips. Cinematographers framed him in low-key noir lighting that turned imperfections into mysterious allure. What nature gave him as a flaw, Hollywood spun into legend. Bogart himself knew the trick. He once joked that his real beauty came from smoke, whiskey, and the best cameraman in the business. In truth, it was the artistry of others that sculpted his face into the bogey myth. Without artificial construction, he might have remained a supporting player, cast in forgettable gangster roles. Instead, Hollywood's machine of illusion remade him into a reluctant romantic idol. The rough-hewn, cynical lover audiences still worship. His transformation is proof of Hollywood's greatest trick, turning what was once mocked into a trademark of desire. Bogart's image was built from cigarettes, shadows, and capped teeth, proof that beauty in Hollywood was never entirely real. Number 14, Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis, forever remembered as the manic clown of American comedy, was never considered handsome. His face was elastic, his nose oversized, his expressions cartoonish. Yet in the mid-century heyday of his career, studios labored to artificially construct a handsomeness around him, insisting he could pass as more than a fool. Publicists reshaped Lewis's image by engineering his appearance for magazine spreads. His hairline was meticulously sculpted, his teeth capped, his gangly posture corrected with tailored suits. Makeup departments softened the exaggerated angles of his face under studio lights, while carefully chosen camera angles minimized his awkward frame. Studio stylists often forced him into dashing tuxedos, hoping to sell him not only as a comedian, but as a desirable entertainer. Behind this glittering illusion lay insecurity. Lewis longed to be accepted not only as funny, but also as magnetic. Hollywood obliged by manufacturing a double image. Comic buffoon on screen, suave. Crooner off it. His telethons and public appearances showcased a polished man in tailored elegance, but the truth was his face was an elaborate mask created by makeup, lighting, and publicity staging. The tragedy is that Lewis's natural appearance was never allowed to exist in Hollywood's artificial mirror. His beauty was not born, but fabricated, grafted onto him with every trick in the book. To audiences, he was zany, but strangely charming. To Hollywood insiders, he was proof that no star was too ugly to be made beautiful if the machine demanded it. Number 13, John Wayne. John Wayne was not born a god of American masculinity. Photographs of young Marion Morrison, before Hollywood renamed him, show a man with awkward features, an oversized nose, uneven teeth, and a body that carried bulk more than grace. Yet, Wayne would be forged into the ultimate cowboy hero, an image built through ruthless Hollywood fabrication. Studio fixers transformed him in stages. His teeth were corrected, his posture drilled into a towering stance that conveyed power. Cinematographers bathed him in golden lighting, softening the bluntness of his features. Costume designers molded his frame into Western archetypes, wide belts, tall boots, broad hats, turning his bulk into a silhouette of dominance. Every frame of a John Wayne picture was constructed to mask his natural awkwardness. Even his voice was trained. The Duke's slow, gravelly drawl, now considered iconic, was the product of studio coaching, polishing over a higher, less commanding tone he originally carried. By the 1940s, Wayne was no longer Marion Morrison, but a full invention. The sculpted embodiment of rugged beauty manufactured to lead America through its cinematic wars and Western myths. The tragedy of Wayne's transformation is that his real humanity disappeared. What survived was only the image, the artificial cowboy, the eternal hero. Behind the legend was a man once dismissed as awkward, reforged into beauty by force of cinematic artifice. Hollywood's machine had done its work and the myth was set in stone. Number 12, Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson is remembered as one of Hollywood's most breathtaking romantic idols, a towering figure with a square jaw and a smile that could melt theaters. But Rock Hudson wasn't born Rock Hudson, nor was he born beautiful. Off-screen, Roy Harold Sherrard Jr. was a shy Midwestern boy with crooked teeth, uneven features, and no presence to command a room. Hollywood, however, had different plans. Universal Pictures remade him from the ground up. His teeth were capped and straightened. His hair dyed and styled into a slick masculine wave. He was trained to walk with slow authority, taught to lower his voice, and drilled on how to carry himself as though he had always been the embodiment of manly elegance. His name was carefully manufactured too, Rock Hudson, two words designed to sound as immovable and American as granite cliffs. Yet even this new artificial beauty was haunted by secrecy. Hudson's true life. His identity and private loves were concealed, hidden behind staged romances and studio-arranged photo spreads with actresses. His masculinity, his allure, his beauty, every detail was the invention of a publicity department determined to transform a gawky young man into a god of desire. On screen, he dazzled, his face radiating the power of the studio's illusion. Off-screen, friends knew a different man, gentle, insecure, still Roy beneath the mask. Hudson's beauty more than any other reveals the extent to which Hollywood could fabricate a god from dust, an icon from a boy who once could not even speak without stammering. His was a beauty born not of nature, but of artifice. Number 11, Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby's voice was velvet, but his face was far from perfection. Off-screen, Crosby had thinning hair, sagging features, and a jawline that lacked the heroic shape of a matinee idol. Yet audiences never noticed because Hollywood cloaked him in a crafted beauty, one not born but carefully manufactured. Lighting designers softened every imperfection, bathing him in warmth that matched his mellow tones. Photographers touched his portraits until the man in print bore little resemblance to the weary, sharp-featured father behind the microphone. His eyes, often tired and heavy-lidded, were framed with key lights that gave them a manufactured twinkle. His nose, long and dominating, was made to seem noble by careful camera angles. But the real illusion came from the roles themselves. Crosby was always cast as the gentle father, the benevolent priest, the warm-hearted companion. These roles added a kind of beauty beyond the physical, shaping him into a vision of kindness that audiences confused for natural charm. His voice was his true gift, but Hollywood understood that sound alone wasn't enough. They built a face to match, even if it wasn't real. Behind the facade, Crosby was far more ordinary, sometimes cruel, often tired, a man with no godlike radiance in everyday life. But when the cameras rolled, he became bathed in a manufactured glow, the artificial beauty of America's father figure. Number 10, Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery was never meant to be beautiful. His heavy jaw, bulbous nose, and looming bulk made him look more like a villain than a leading man. Off-screen, his reputation was even uglier. Violent, cruel, a bully among actors and children alike. Yet MGM, desperate for a box office star, performed a miracle of image-making, turning Beery into Hollywood's gentle giant. The transformation relied on roles and artifice. Beery was cast as rough men with soft hearts, fathers who melted into tenderness, brutes who found redemption in love. Makeup softened his lines. Costumes shrank his bulk into approachable warmth. In photographs, he was carefully posed with children. His scowl turned into a forced half-smile, the illusion of kindness, radiating from a man who was, by all accounts, sadistic. Lighting departments worked overtime to conceal his scars and rough skin, using shadows to carve away flaws. MGM's publicity team spun endless stories of his kindness, creating a public image that was pure invention. The gentle giant never existed. He was a mask built on lies, covering a face audiences would never have embraced in truth. Beery's artificial beauty was not about handsomeness, but about deception. Audiences saw a warm-hearted hero. Behind the curtain stood one of Hollywood's cruelest figures. The beauty was not in his face. It was in the fiction Hollywood painted over him. Number 9, Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn is remembered as the dazzling swashbuckler of the silver screen. The man who swung from ropes, clashed swords, and stole kisses with reckless charm. His face seemed cut from marble, his smile legendary. But Flynn's beauty was carefully engineered, not born whole. In truth, Flynn's features were irregular. His teeth were discolored and jagged, his nose slightly bent, and his skin carried the rough texture of hard living. Warner Brothers knew that to sell him as Robin Hood, they had to reforge him. Makeup artists painted away his flaws, bleaching and polishing his teeth into the heroic grin fans adored. Lighting specialists learned to tilt shadows just enough to carve definition into his cheekbones. The costumes did the rest. Tight-fitted tunics broadened his chest. Feathered caps drew eyes upward, elongating his face into elegance. With camera angles from below, Flynn became towering, majestic, a romantic ideal. In real life, without makeup and lighting, he often looked worn, ordinary, even unhealthy. But on screen, the studio's tricks transformed him into something immortal. The irony is that Flynn, celebrated as the very image of masculine beauty, relied more than anyone on smoke, mirrors, and rouge. He was not naturally flawless. He was a pirate sculpted by artificial hands, a man made beautiful for the camera's lie. Number 8, Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando is hailed as one of cinema's most magnetic figures, his smoldering gaze in A Streetcar Named Desire forever etched into Hollywood's memory. Yet, Brando's beauty was never simple. It was manufactured by artifice and myth, then sold as raw authenticity. Off-screen, Brando struggled with fluctuating weight, skin blemishes, and a restless, brooding energy that often made him appear disheveled rather than desirable. But directors and studios knew how to reframe him. They lit him from the side, highlighting the shadowed contours of his jaw and lips. They dressed him in plain t-shirts and leather jackets, transforming his ordinary frame into a symbol of raw American masculinity. Most strikingly, Brando's beauty was tied to his performances. His method acting blurred the line between man and myth, and Hollywood embraced it, spinning his flaws into assets. His mumbling voice became sensitivity. His muscular yet unrefined body became dangerous allure. Every imperfection was polished until it appeared intentional, designed, beautiful. Even in later years, when age and indulgence overtook his looks, publicity departments clung to the myth of Brando's beauty, re-releasing old photographs where lighting and makeup had hidden his flaws. What audiences adored was not Marlon Brando, but a crafted illusion, a man made beautiful not by nature, but by a carefully staged rebellion against it. Number 7. Clark Gable. Clark Gable, forever the king of Hollywood, embodied masculine perfection in Gone with the Wind. His strong jaw, sly mustache, and unshakable charm became the model of rugged handsomeness. But behind the crown lay an ordinary man, made beautiful through Hollywood's relentless artistry. Gable's teeth were his greatest shame. Yellowed, crooked, and decayed, they gave him terrible breath, hardly the hallmark of a romantic idol. MGM intervened, commissioning expensive dental reconstruction, capping and whitening until his grin gleamed on screen. Makeup softened his weathered skin while studio lighting carved his uneven face into a flawless mask of confidence. Even his mustache was strategy. It distracted from a crooked smile and a slightly misshapen jaw, reframing imperfection as roguish allure. Cinematographers angled cameras upward to make him appear taller, stronger, more dominant than he really was. The king was an invention. His beauty came from shadows, smoke, and artificial enhancements. Layered until audiences believed he was a natural-born icon. Off-screen, Gable was often insecure, chain-smoking to mask his flaws. But on screen, he became immortal, his artificially constructed beauty frozen in the golden glow of Hollywood's greatest myth. 6. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. Roscoe Arbuckle, nicknamed Fatty, was one of the earliest giants of silent cinema, literally and figuratively. Yet his fame came not from natural beauty, but from Hollywood's strange alchemy, turning his physical awkwardness into a form of attractiveness through costume, makeup, and myth. Off-screen, Arbuckle was not conventionally appealing. His massive frame, round face, and heavy features drew ridicule long before adoration. Early in his career, producers worried he would never find an audience in a business built on glamour. But silent cinema discovered a loophole. Through exaggeration, through artifice, Arbuckle's ungainly shape could be reimagined as endearing, even beautiful in its own way. Studios dressed him in oversized suits that emphasized his bulk for comic effect. They gave him carefully designed makeup that smoothed his features into childlike innocence. Publicity photos softened his size, presenting him not as grotesque, but as jovial, a harmless giant. Cinematographers worked tirelessly with angles and lighting, sometimes even lowering cameras to elongate his face, turning bulk into presence. His artificial beauty was not physical perfection, but constructed charm. Arbuckle's massive frame became lovable, his smile crafted through retouched photographs, his clumsiness edited into grace by clever cuts. To audiences, he wasn't ugly at all. He was delightful, a screen-filling figure of joy. And yet this illusion would be shattered by scandal. When Arbuckle was accused of manslaughter in the death of actress Virginia Rapp, the grotesque caricature returned. His size was no longer framed as lovable, but as menacing. The same physicality Hollywood had polished into charm became evidence of guilt in the public's eye. He was exiled from the industry, a victim not only of scandal, but of the fragile nature of artificial beauty. Fatty Arbuckle's story reveals the thin line between transformation and deception. Hollywood gave him beauty by tricking audiences into adoring his shape. But when the illusion cracked, it collapsed entirely. His career proves how artificial glamour is only as strong as the stories that protect it. Number 5, Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy was celebrated as Hollywood's moral compass. The quiet, steady man whose face radiated integrity in films like Boys Town and Captain's Courageous. Audiences adored him not just for his acting, but for his perceived decency, a beauty of character that seemed to shine through his features. Yet this beauty was carefully sculpted, polished over flaws and demons that might have ruined his image. In truth, Tracy's face was ordinary, even ruggedly coarse. His jaw sagged when tired. His eyes often bloodshot from heavy drinking. Photographers had to retouch his portraits constantly, smoothing lines, whitening eyes, creating a version of Tracy that seemed endlessly composed. On film, cinematographers framed him with solemn lighting, transforming a weary man into a noble symbol. His voice was trained to carry steady strength. In reality, alcohol often slurred his speech, but with rehearsed cadence and clever editing, studios polished his words into wisdom. Publicity departments flooded fan magazines with stories of his thoughtfulness, never his rages. They dressed him in priestly roles, judges' robes, teachers' coats, costumes that cloaked his face in borrowed dignity. The beauty of Spencer Tracy was thus an illusion of character. The world saw a calm, unbreakable figure, but those close to him saw the reality. A man undone by addiction. At times violent, carrying darkness behind his eyes. Even Katharine Hepburn, his lifelong partner, endured his storms in private while the public gazed on the image of Hollywood's most dependable hero. The tragedy is that Tracy himself longed for truth. He knew the studio made him beautiful, that his moral authority was a mask. His performances glowed because they were sincere attempts to match the myth. But beauty built on lies is a prison. For Spencer Tracy, the mask was never lifted even as it crushed the man beneath. Number 4. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis, born Bernard Schwartz to Hungarian Jewish immigrants in the Bronx, did not step into Hollywood with matinee idol looks. His nose was broad, his speech thick with accent, and his natural features spoke more of a streetwise boy than a silver screen heartthrob. But Universal Pictures had a dream to manufacture beauty out of raw clay. First came the name. Bernard Schwartz became Tony Curtis, a sleek modern invention. Then came his face. Studio surgeons sculpted his nose, refining it into the slender aristocratic shape audiences now remember. His teeth were capped and whitened, his eyebrows shaped into precise dramatic arches. His hair, naturally dark and unruly, was styled into a glossy wave that reflected every studio light. Voice coaches spent months reshaping his accent, sanding away the Bronx in favor of a polished mid-Atlantic tone. Costume designers elongated his figure with tailored suits, broadening his shoulders, narrowing his waist. Every inch of Tony Curtis was engineered, every flaw reimagined as glamour. And it worked. Curtis became one of the most desired men of the 1950s and 1960s, his artificially remade beauty capturing the gaze of women worldwide. His performance in Some Like It Hot confirmed his place among the icons, his face as carefully crafted as his roles. Yet beneath it all, Curtis never forgot Bernard Schwartz. In interviews, he often admitted the insecurity that never left him, the knowledge that his beauty was manufactured, not born. He was Hollywood sculpture, a man made beautiful not by nature, but by knives, lights, and lenses. Tony Curtis represents the extremes of Hollywood artifice, how the industry could take an ordinary boy and through sheer force of image-making transform him into a dream. He became proof that in Hollywood, beauty was never destiny. It was invention. Number 3, Bob Hope. Bob Hope, the eternal entertainer, was the very face of American optimism during the mid-20th century. His quick wit, tireless USO tours, and cheerful banter made him beloved worldwide. But behind the image of the ever-smiling comedian lay a man whose features were not conventionally handsome. Yet Hollywood transformed him into a figure of artificial charm. Hope's nose was long and sharp, his jaw narrow, his natural grin uneven. Early photographs of him before stardom show a man more ordinary than iconic. Yet Paramount and his team of handlers understood that the man destined to embody American comedy needed to project not just humor, but a peculiar sort of beauty, a face audiences would trust and admire. Publicity departments worked relentlessly to soften his appearance. Photographers used retouching to broaden his chin, reduce the prominence of his nose, and paint warmth into his eyes. Lighting was critical, harsh shadows were avoided, and soft key lights created a perpetual twinkle across his features. His toothy grin, naturally imperfect, was reshaped by dental work, whitening, and careful framing. The illusion extended into his persona. Hope's tuxedos, his perfectly timed walk-ons, his gallant bows to leading ladies, all of it suggested elegance he did not naturally possess. His comedic energy became his beauty. When audiences laughed at him, they also admired him, his appearance wrapped in the charm of artifice and performance. Off-screen, those who saw Bob Hope unvarnished noted how ordinary he looked. But audiences never did. To them, he was the smiling face of comedy, a man made beautiful by lights, suits, and relentless fabrication. His story proves that in Hollywood, beauty could be conjured from laughter, built from illusion, painted over reality until the audience believed. Number 2, Tyrone Power. Tyrone Power's legacy is built on a face, the smooth, dark-haired, romantic lead of The Mark of Zorro and Blood in Sand. He was advertised as perfection itself, Hollywood's dream of masculine beauty. But Power's beauty was less destiny than design. Crafted by studios who demanded he embody something he was not. Power's natural face was striking, but unbalanced. His jawline lacked definition, his cheeks were slightly sunken, and his teeth uneven. Studio stylists worked endlessly to correct this. Dental surgeons whitened and reshaped his teeth into a gleaming grin. Makeup artists used contouring before contouring had a name, darkening hollows and sculpting cheekbones with paint and powder. Costuming completed the illusion. Power was dressed in flowing capes, high collars, and tailored suits that elongated his frame, disguising his slight build as heroic. Publicists arranged photographs with perfect lighting, shadows carefully sculpting away flaws. He was paired with the most beautiful actresses of his era, reinforcing the belief that he too must be an object of irresistible desire. But Power's beauty was a prison. His trans fame whispered about in private circles was carefully hidden because the studios needed him to remain the hetero dream idol. His image was so tightly controlled that his very identity was suppressed. The beauty audiences adored was not natural nor even truthful. It was the artificial creation of a studio system that demanded masks of perfection. Tyrone Power was beautiful because Hollywood willed it. He was handsome because they sculpted him into it. But behind the mask stood a man far more complicated than the smooth image the world saw. His beauty, like so many of his peers, was a lie told with lighting, makeup, and silence. Number 1, Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift was one of Hollywood's most hauntingly beautiful men, his face luminous with sensitivity, his performances charged with aching vulnerability. Yet his beauty was not entirely natural. It was forged and reforged by Hollywood and later by tragedy. In his early years, Clift's features were irregular. His teeth were uneven, his jaw narrow, his voice marked by a slight impediment. Studios sent him through the same polishing mill, dental correction, diction lessons, tailored suits that broadened his shoulders. Makeup enhanced his striking eyes while lighting accentuated his angular cheekbones. The result was a carefully honed beauty presented as effortless. But the most telling chapter came after his 1956 car accident. The crash shattered his jaw, nose, and cheek, leaving his face grotesquely swollen. Hollywood panicked. Their dream idol was broken. Surgeons worked frantically to reconstruct him, capping teeth, wiring bones, smoothing scars. Makeup artists layered foundation to hide the unevenness and cameramen adjusted angles to preserve the illusion of symmetry. What emerged was the two faces of Clift, the before and after. On one side, the impossibly beautiful young man engineered by Hollywood. On the other, the reconstructed survivor whose beauty was patched together through surgery and deception. Fans adored both, often refusing to see the pain beneath. Clift's story is perhaps the most poignant of all. His beauty was always artificial, and when it was destroyed, Hollywood built it again, forcing him to live inside a mask he could no longer sustain. His career and life spiraled under the weight of that artifice. His was beauty rebuilt, twice over, proof that even tragedy could not stop Hollywood from remaking a man into something the audience would still find beautiful. Hollywood's golden age was not built on natural beauty. It was sculpted, painted, and forced into existence. These 15 men were remade into gods through lies, lighting, and artifice. Behind the myth they were ordinary, even ugly. If this truth unsettles you, subscribe. Because the masks of Hollywood always crack. Even Katharine Hepburn, his lifelong partner, endured his storms in private while the public gazed on the image of Hollywood's most dependable hero. The tragedy is that Tracy himself longed for truth. He knew the studio made him beautiful, that his moral authority was a mask. His performances glowed because they were sincere attempts to match the myth. But beauty built on lies is a prison. For Spencer Tracy, the mask was never lifted even as it crushed the man beneath. Number 4. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis, born Bernard Schwartz to Hungarian Jewish immigrants in the Bronx, did not step into Hollywood with matinee idol looks. His nose was broad, his speech thick with accent, and his natural features spoke more of a streetwise boy than a silver screen heartthrob. But Universal Pictures had a dream to manufacture beauty out of raw clay. First came the name. Bernard Schwartz became Tony Curtis, a sleek modern invention. Then came his face. Studio surgeons sculpted his nose, refining it into the slender aristocratic shape audiences now remember. His teeth were capped and whitened, his eyebrows shaped into precise dramatic arches. His hair, naturally dark and unruly, was styled into a glossy wave that reflected every studio light. Voice coaches spent months reshaping his accent, sanding away the Bronx in favor of a polished mid-Atlantic tone. Costume designers elongated his figure with tailored suits, broadening his shoulders, narrowing his waist. Every inch of Tony Curtis was engineered, every flaw reimagined as glamour. And it worked. Curtis became one of the most desired men of the 1950s and 1960s, his artificially remade beauty capturing the gaze of women worldwide. His performance in Some Like It Hot confirmed his place among the icons, his face as carefully crafted as his roles. Yet beneath it all, Curtis never forgot Bernard Schwartz. In interviews, he often admitted the insecurity that never left him, the knowledge that his beauty was manufactured, not born. He was Hollywood sculpture, a man made beautiful not by nature, but by knives, lights, and lenses. Tony Curtis represents the extremes of Hollywood artifice, how the industry could take an ordinary boy and through sheer force of image-making transform him into a dream. He became proof that in Hollywood, beauty was never destiny. It was invention. Number 3, Bob Hope. Bob Hope, the eternal entertainer, was the very face